What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to episode of First and 56. Rondo Griffin, Marcus Martin, your host. No Anthony Gulick on this one. So we had to bring in a third guy. We're going to introduce him in shortly, but obviously, draft day has come and gone. Draft weekend has come and gone. A lot of picks, a lot of, people from college making their NFL dreams come true, joining the Millionaire Club. We've got a lot to discuss, but first and foremost, let's introduce our guest for this one. Friend of the show, friend off the air. I've been on his podcast. He's joined us a couple of times, so he's back again. Welcome everyone, Adrian Reyes, host of Take One for the Team podcast, run on Spotify. Give him a follow on that, but let's bring him in. Adrian, what is going on? Welcome to the 56 again.
What's up, Rondo? Marcus, how are you? Great to be back. Great to be back to talk about something that we have a lot of interest in on, which is the draft. For some people, it's Christmas. For us, it's just another step in the off season to get ready for the regular season. And I'm really looking forward to talk about what the Colts did this past weekend, and obviously see what you guys have to think about it. And obviously, it comes from the people too. So.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So let's start with round one, day one, because I'm sure you guys, like myself, are sitting at home watching a draft, watching all these offensive players keep going down the board. We're sitting there at 15. We end up being the ones to take the first defensive player. So insert Latu, the edge from UCLA. Adrian, you're the guest. Let's jump to you. We've talked a lot off the air about improving this team, but your first thoughts on the pick and what you were thinking?
First of all, I gotta be honest, and Rondo, you're not gonna let me lie in this podcast. I wanted Brock Bowers. I was so happy when the Jets passed on him, and obviously it's huge disappointment when the Raiders took him. But like you said, best defensive player on the draft. Obviously, the Dallas Turner name was there as well. But what I really like about this pick is that the Colts really scouted him. They really did the homework on him. He's not a guy like just fell into the laps and they're like, well, he's too good to pass on. Because that would have been the case with Dallas Turner. In case the Colts talked to a lot of medical experts. I'm not going to get into that because, like I said, I'm no doctor. I don't have any experience in that regard. But from the production side in UCLA, he produced as better as any other rusher in this draft, if not the best. So the Colts are getting somebody who's ready, in my opinion, to start day one, give this defensive line a huge boost, and see what it takes, for him to either replace Quiripay, play along him, become more part of the rotation, stare down. We'll see what the scheme eventually does for him. But I'm really excited about the pick just because the Colts did their homework on this guy. So at the end of the day, you can miss or hit on a guy, but just do your homework. The Colts were convinced about him, so nothing to regret about him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you were feasting as, like you said, Bowers dropped past the Jets who, we said it in our chat that he's got to give, if you want a realistic shot at him, you either have to jump the Jets or for whatever reason to go past them. So I knew you were looking at your chops, but hey, like you said, you get the best defensive prospects in this draft, absolute monster. Marcus, we talked in our group chat as well after the pick as well. So let's get it for the air. What were you thinking?
Actually, I flew under the radar on this one because I actually had him at the top of my draft board to be picked in the first round. If you go back and look at this guy's film from the game against USC, man, he torched that offensive line. This guy was all over the field, making sacks, making plays, disrupting the quarterback. If you look at his film, every single play, it seems like this guy never gets tired. And when I looked at him when he decided to go and declare himself for the draft, I was hoping and praying that he would end up an Indianapolis Colts because we definitely need that kind of player on defense. Because watching games and watching them live, it gets to that third, fourth quarter when you need that 4th and 1 or you need that that 3rd and 15, and we always usually end up giving up those plays. This guy right here will help us a ton. When getting to the quarterback. Adrian said, day one starter. I don't know who he's going to start over, but day one starter. So I was ecstatic when we got him, man. I was actually jumping for joy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna basically mirror what you guys both said because I was watching the draft and it was going all offense, which in my head, for my board as well, it was perfect because I thought the first pick. I said it in kind of both our group chats. I was like, I don't necessarily care what position, but you need to go defense. The offense, you can kind of get those pieces later, but the defense needs the help. And now I was sitting there thinking, okay, great, Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo, perfection. But you take Latu, and originally, like you said, I didn't watch much tape of his. I saw Dallas Turner there, and I was like, oh, go get him. The Bama kid, of course. But you take the pick, all the draft pundits love it. Max Crosby, DeForest Buckner, they're making reactions. They love it. I'm like, okay. Then you go watch the tape, and it's just like, forget Dallas Turner. Absolutely. I will take this guy all day, every day. Like you guys both said, the motor, the stats, the numbers behind it. That's what we need. And then lastly, you bring in the Gus Bradley thing of that only send 4, don't send blitzes, whatnot. That's the type of guy you need then to make that system work. So if you're not going to get a corner, you absolutely get a guy who can get into the backfield, get to the quarterback. And, we've all talked about it this season, the past season, off the air. That's the biggest need this defense needed. And so before I go back to you guys real quick, let's obviously quote Gulick here. He couldn't be here, but still makes his presence known. Gulick from his note says that Latu was a guy he listed as a potential pick on the top of his board. But more than importantly than anything, it finally goes against that Chris Ballard philosophy to just get a physical freak. Get someone who actually puts up the numbers and is a physical freak. So obviously, you love to see it. And we kind of say it, and we kind of end up saying it every year, but Ballard knocks it out of the park when it comes to the draft.
He does. Obviously, you cannot predict the future on these guys. I mean, let's get real for a minute. You can have everything that you want on paper, and at the end of the day, if the guy doesn't produce, it's not really on the GM. It's mostly on the guy. It's mostly on the players. Mostly on the coaches, on the team. But on paper, this pick looks great. He also gives me vibes of Darius Leonard or Shaquille Leonard. The body build, the way that he gets to the quarterback. Obviously, I haven't seen much tape of him in regards of interceptions, in regard of dropping in coverage, but getting to the quarterback, like you both guys said, it's huge. And the Colts have been missing that closer, basically. That guy that will get you the sack on second or third and 15, third and 12, where the Colts were just too soft. And since they didn't address cornerback, and we're going to get to that point, why not, strength a little bit on the defensive line and get the best guy available.
Yeah, exactly. It's a case of, like, you always hear the argument of get a need or take the best player available, the BPA. But really, that logic, I don't say it's skewered, but they're missing some words on it. Because when you take the best player available, it's not always the best player available. It's the best player available at a position of need. And for us, you would call edge a need. We can argue on it of whether corner was a bigger need. I'd argue yes. Maybe someone else argue no. But I'm absolutely, again, not mad at who you ended up getting. Like I said, it fell in our favor that we took the first defensive player in the draft, period. But, like you said, Adrian, it's like you get this guy, he's slated as a closer, and kind of like how we all said it for when we drafted Kwity Paye, that he's going to have such an easy time because Buckner takes up so much attention. So I'm going to read myself again. Latu is going to have such an easy time because of the attention that Buckner takes. Obviously, he's a rookie. There's going to be some growing pains. But again, quoting Gulick, you took a guy who has proven it at the college level. So hopefully that translates. But obviously, I think we all have faith in our defensive team, our coaching, but most importantly, the veterans that are there around him. I think it's going to work.
Yeah, he absolutely produced. I mean, like I said, if you look at his film, every single game that he played in college, every single play, every single snap, this guy was disruptive. Kind of remind you of T.J. Watt when he was in college. This guy, the motor never stops. I was listening to he was on Max Crosby's podcast right before he got drafted, and he studies his opponents. He studies the guy that he's going up against every single week. So he knows their weaknesses. He knows what kind of moves they're going to do. And then he uses that against them in the game. I've never heard a defensive end say anything like that. And I'm pretty sure it's, they do, but this guy actually comes in and he said he studies his opponents. He studies the people that he's going to line up across. And that right there just gave me goosebumps. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to see this guy play. I'm definitely ready to see what he can do.
I think I watched the same podcast you were talking about, because I believe in that podcast Matt Krause reference of that when it comes to edge rushers, it's a lot like standing in a room with 5 doors and one's going to open at a split second. It's like some guys just go for the same door, and when it opens, they pop. But this guy, Latu, he always finds the open door. He may not get home every single time, but he's finding that door. His presence is known. So I'm assuming I'm alluding to the same podcast you were referring to. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. Yep.
All right, so we're on page with that. That was day 1. Again, we all say Ballard knocked out the park. Let's go to day 2. Switch side of the ball, we go offensive. So he takes Adonai Mitchell in the second round, then Matt Goniclovs in the third round. Now, for Adonai, he traded down. For Matt, he traded up. So you get a receiver, you get an offensive tackle. Again, we've kind of talked that, you need a receiver. I think we all kind of thought second round was where he was going to do that anyway. Adrian, we'll start with you again on these two. Whoever you want to start with. O-line and receiver, it adds to the team, but what do you see?
Let's start with order. I mean, everybody. I guess I was the only one who didn't think that receiver was a need. I knew weapons was a need, but I wanted to address the tight end position first, and I think I fought with every single person, or at least Colts fan on Twitter about that. But I think Ballard did the right thing. You and I talked Rondo on Friday morning if Kool-Aid was going to drop, and unfortunately he was gone 5 picks earlier. So not only that, the next 2-3 picks were also cornerback. So the Colts did the smart thing, be like, okay, let's go back, regroup a little bit, and get the best player available. And Mitchell, I believe he's gonna have some impact. Good thing about him is that he's not going to come and be expected to perform right away, because we have already 3 starting wide receivers that if Richardson is on fire, they're gonna produce. So Mitchell will have the time to develop, the time to learn and adjust to this offense. That's what I like about the pick. Other than that, I mean, could have gone any way. This wide receiver class was not as deep or maybe as talented as others. So you might see a little bit of drop in production or in level. But at the end of the day, second round pick. Last year we ended up getting Josh Downs. Everybody was freaking out about it in the good time. I didn't see that reaction this time, but again, let this kid learn, let this kid develop, and we'll see how he produces on the pros. On the tackle, I see that I think he plays right tackle. Don't correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So this also means that he has the potential to become the right guard, which is basically we're trying to fill up the need, since the last good one we had was Glowinski. I like the pick. If you traded up for him, means that they already scouted him. They have good regards on him. So we'll see how he develops. There's also rumors that he's the successor of Brandon Smith. I don't want to call that one out just yet. I want to see the guy just develop, see where he's going to fit. And being a day 2 guy, you're sort of expected to start or at least be the first man up if something happens. So definitely looking forward to see some action, at least in the preseason game from him, and hopefully he can get a starting spot.
Yeah, definitely. And also like with the offensive lineman, it's kind of like it doesn't matter when you take one. It's never a sexy pick, but it's a pick that's necessary. And like you said, this is a guy where he's a right tackle. He can play both sides of the O line essentially. But like you said, it's for that insurance, because we saw what happened last year, similar to the receivers. It wasn't so much the starters; it was the depth behind those guys. We were cringing when the backups had to come in. Hopefully this is a guy who either reduces that cringe level or doesn't even give you a cringe level. You don't have to worry about it. Sure, he's a backup, like you said. Being day 2, though, you're kind of expected to be an impact player. But I'm agreeing with you that the pressure isn't as high, so let's say, as if you were a first round player.
Yeah, and just super quick to drop out and then let Marcus talk. Bernard Raymond was drafted around the same picks 2
Exactly.
years ago.
Yep.
But he was expected to become the left tackle. There's no
Right.
expectation with Gonzalez now. So that's going to help him out. And hopefully, if he's not right tackle, maybe right guard, find his sweet spot. If not, just be the backup, be ready to go, because offensive line injuries are around the corner every season. So it's good to have that depth.
Exactly. So well put. So Marcus, let's get your opinion on these two guys as well. Adelaide Mitchell, Megan Collins. If you want to add anything, have at it.
Yeah, I want to that the offensive tackle that I can't think of the guy's name, but anyway, I thought that was a good pick. I thought especially when they it was saying that he can play inside and outside. I'm looking more of him maybe beating out Fries in the training camp, at that guard position, because we struggled right there. Fries, he'll give you 1 or 2 games, and then he'll come back, another couple games, and then you'll be questioning you, scratching your head like, man, what are you doing? I think he has the potential to beat out Fries. But Pro Football Focus, you look at Fries, and he did real well. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he, better than, the past couple years that, when he came in as a backup, before he became a starter. So I thought that was a good competition pick. I think that would elevate Fries in training camp, not wanting to get beat out. And then with Mitchell, I thought that was a splash. I think he has potential to maybe start over Alex Pierce. With the way this guy runs his routes, and of course, he's like Alex Pierce, he can take the top off. I mean, everybody look at Alex Pierce as the deep threat guy. This guy here, he can play inside, he can play outside. He can take the top off. He can, his route running is pretty crisp. I thought that was a steal of the draft, to be honest with you, because I thought in my eyes that he would go late first round.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like when we drafted him, I kind of said it, like, I didn't like the pick, but I understand it and I get it, and I was I'm going to trust Ballard. I was first and foremost, I get it, just because, and me and Adrian talked about it on his podcast, plenty of times last season, we went into the game with 3 receivers, and that was it. So more than anything, he just answers that death question. He's a guy you can at least put out there. We needed it. Yes, we're getting Ashton Doolin back this year, but outside our top 3, Pittman, Downs, and Pierce, it was a no man's land. There was literally no one. You and I could have suited up. That's how much there was depth there. So you get a guy is dead, and like Adrian said, the starting 3 is established. He's not expected to jump into that role. Now, he can win the role. He can absolutely win the job, but it's not like you're penciling him in there right now, which is why it's going to work out, and I'm okay with it. So I really don't hate it. And same thing with Matt, the offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. It's the same thing. He's not expected to be a starter. If he wins the job, great. But most important than anything, he's a depth piece. He's a guy who's going to make the roster. And again, now we're not cringing anymore if we're dealing with the injury. We can it's a plug and play type of thing. And it's a nice position to be.
Absolutely. You let the guy develop, like we talked about Mitchell, and let him find his sweet spot.
Absolutely. So let's keep moving. Let's jump into day 3. I call it the dart throw around, just because a lot of these guys, you don't expect much. Now, obviously, look at our team. We've got EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin, day 3 picks, who are now important, serious starters for us. But for the most part, these guys taken on day 3, they're special teamers. They're bottom of the roster. Some of them are even cut day guys. But I'm not going to name through all of them. But Marcus, we'll start with you on this time. If you want to highlight any of the 5 that we took on day 3, how about it?
I think I want to highlight I think it's the linebacker out of Marshall. Guy plays real well. I mean, look at his tape. He's kind of like Darius Leonard type linebacker a little bit. Always around the ball. He's just like kind of got that motor where he just never quits too. Late round pick. You don't really expect him to do much. I guess, looking at coming in, 4th round, you think that, maybe he's going to play special teams or whatever. But we do need that 3rd linebacker. You know what I'm saying? We don't really have, other than EJ and Zaire, we don't have that third linebacker. I'm looking for this guy maybe to come in and fill that role, and I think that's the reason why they drafted him in the late round. I also think that he was kind of a steal too.
All right, just want to make sure I get you correctly. Are you talking about Jalen Carlisle as a safety out of
Yes.
Missouri, or okay?
No. They what did he play? And he played linebacker and something else.
Well, he's listed as a safety, but he plays both.
Okay, yeah, that's him. That's
okay.
Him. Yep.
It's hard to really find their spot because they list them as D back sometimes.
Right.
You don't even know if they're corners or not. So I got you.
Well, like I was like, you always want to pay attention to like how they get announced. When you do draft them, because it gives you a little bit tips. For example, the guy who took the 4th round, Tanner Bortolini, he played center in college. We announced him as a guard.
You know
what I mean? Yep. So it like you said, but the guy talking about Jalen Carlisle out of Missouri, exactly. He's a safety, 6'3", he's big, but he reminds you a little bit of Clayton Gathers when we had him. It's like he's a safety, but you could easily drop him as a linebacker. You know what I mean? So I like it's a versatile pick. And again, like you said, after the big 2 of EJ and Zaire, it's wide open. Grant Stewart made a little bit of strides last year, but that, like you said, that kind of third linebacker spot is open for the taking.
Yep. I agree. That's why I like this guy. The speed and like you said, Clayton Gathers. Yeah, I forgot about him. But yeah, that reminded me a lot of him too, with him being flashy and playing in the box, you know what I'm saying? And very, very good against the run. So I actually thought that was going to be that was a kind of a steal in the draft too.
All right, I like it. Adrian, same question for you. Anyone on day 3 you just want to highlight?
Yeah, I actually want to go back to Tanner Bortolini.
Okay.
The reason why is that I got a text from my brother as soon as he get picks, and he's not a Wisconsin native, but he lives in Milwaukee. He follows a lot of Wisconsin football, and his words are good center, doesn't get injured, he'll give you some good minutes. So right away, if somebody texts you that, it gives you the at least relief that the guy is durable, and it's an insurance policy, like we talk about Gonzalez, that in case Ryan Kelly decides to call it quits after this year, you have that, or if like you said, he was announced as a guard, maybe he'll give Fries and our third round pick a run for the money in that starting spot. It gives you some depth in the offensive line that, like we just talked about, it's never a bad thing to have. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, not specifically on players, but as you can see, we drafted safety, and cornerback, in the 5th and 6th round. I think what Ballard's trying to do is trying to find some gold in the later rounds, just like he found with Jalen Jones last year. Even though the Darius Rush pick ended up not panning out, but he's trying to get corners or defensive backs in that area, which specifically, I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm always saying that you need some veteran presses, especially with the group that you have with what's it called, Juju, Brandt, and Jalen Jones,
Flowers.
the same guy. Yeah, Dallas Flowers.
Flowers.
The only veteran that you have in the backfield is Kenny Moore now. So I wouldn't mind if Ballard signs somebody else in the offseason to have some veteran, some leadership there. But I see the strategy pan out for him. Hopefully it pans out for him as well this year.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I don't hate it. Like you said, it's kind of been almost maybe the theme of the draft for us it's been depth. It's been getting those, those bottom roster guys, those backups who can essentially you can plug and play. But it shows the difference of how we are as a team from a few years ago that we can now draft that. Because take it back a couple of years ago, we were drafting for starters. We were drafting for guys who were expecting you to come in and produce. So it shows you how quickly things can change, and it comes with success. It comes with your offseason, also comes with players you take. I also love that we all highlighted 3 different people because we did not practice at all. Because I'm going to go different on both of you guys. I'm going to take Anthony Gould, receiver out of Oregon State. I've talked it on our show, off the air. I've always been a special teams guy. I played special teams when I was playing high school football. It's just a thing I love. That guy is the best returner. He was the best returner in this draft. He was the best returner in college. Now you have a guy who is solidified as if anything else, he is solidified as a return man. Josh Downs can now focus full offense. Dallas Flowers can now focus full defense. You got a guy who takes all of that out of your hands with the new kickoff rules. So, we'll see how that works in our favor. But you got a guy who is a home run hitter when it comes to kicks and punts. Nothing more you can ask for when it comes to that position. And again, it's an easier path for him to make this roster because he has that ability. And obviously Xavier Worthy got all of the eyeballs and everything, setting the common record of the 40-yard dash. In terms of speed, though, This guy was right behind him. So he's an absolute burner. Give him the ball in space, watch out. But more important than anything, I'm saying, unless you love special teams, you love seeing those home runs. This is a guy who we could see taking many house calls.
And I think it's a good area that we got better at, because I don't think we had a real specialist since Naheem Hines left.
Nope.
You know, you just mentioned Josh Downs and Dallas Flowers. They were okay at it, but last year we didn't have really any production from kickoffs or punts. So it's something that really helps us, because our special teams are pretty strong. Now we have a real kicker in Matt Gay. Now we have a really great punter in Rigoberto. Now we're gonna have a really good punter if this kid develops. So helps you out in that. You know, like I said, at least if he's not gonna do the touchdowns, he's gonna give Anthony Richardson a good starting spot. You know, in the 30 and the 35 yard instead of being in the back zone. So I like that pick, Rondo. Good thing that you brought it up. Hopefully, you've been getting really good at these predictions, especially down the road in September and October. Hopefully, they pan out like that. But like I said, I feel like the Colts are strengthening in every single stage of the game, and that's what you want. You want a complete team. You just want to have a really strong offense and a weak defense, or the same thing with special teams. So, really good pick if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, definitely. So, you want to say the Marcus or no?
Yeah, I feel like this year's draft, you know, since we didn't have to go in, wondering who our quarterback was going to be and stuff like that, you know, like we have in the past, you know, a few years back. I felt like this draft was more of getting the team better this year. You know, I'm actually more ecstatic and more pumped about this season than I probably have in the past 3 or 4 seasons alone, you know, especially going into the draft, because each year we were wondering, okay, who was going to be our quarterback. And first and foremost, before we can even think about, you know, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, any of them players, we wanted to know who was going to be actually throwing the ball to. And then this year we come in, we're relaxed because we have Anthony Richardson. He's healthy. He's going to be ready for training camp. Shoulders all good. And then we hit a home run with the, couple offensive linemen, for some depth. And then you hit, receiver, and then, and made a big splash on defense. I think this year, I don't think the expectations are still going to be where we want them to be, but I think we improved a lot in this draft. And I think we are, at least in my eyes, next season, a 10 to 11 win team.
Yeah, and you bring up something that kind of slipped my mind, because like you said, you forget about it. Yeah, we have a quarterback. We weren't even worried about that. It changes so much. Obviously, they said that if you watch any of the draft, any of the stations, they were talking about when they were talking about the Texans, they mentioned the same thing. It is such an better feeling having your quarterback, because obviously we watched it. The first half of the first 12 picks are all quarterbacks. Not being in that bubble was a great feeling. Like you said, it allows you to focus on target other things. And again, I think it makes, like you said, it makes the offseason easier, because you kind of have a distinct direction of where exactly you're going to go as a franchise.
I'm going to kind of pump the brakes on that one a little bit, and I don't want to be the party pooper on this one, but it does help that we have the quarterback. We talked about it last year. But we also have to remember that he's coming back from an injury, So the situation between us and the Texans are extremely different. Their pick just won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Ours didn't even play 3 games. So let's get into that. I've seen a lot of the fan base getting really excited about Richardson. We all seen what the guy can do. Absolutely. I want him, but my first priority this season is I want him healthy for 17 games.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I want to see what he really can produce, because people are trashing out Alec Pierce. The guy didn't even have a good quarterback the 3 years he played with.
Right. That's true.
Right? There's plays in Minshew's highlight that the guy is literally wide open and he doesn't get the ball. So I want to get that production. I want to see that production. I want to see Pittman being the safety net like we expect him to be. I want to see Josh Downs taking the next step forward with the help of Reggie Wayne. I want to see everything come into place before putting expectations on it. Obviously, in a much different place than last year, where we didn't know what we're going to expect out of Richardson. We kind of know now. We have a fixture, but now let's see it for a full season, because, as you know, you're going to start hot in September, and then you have a terrible October, or same thing with November and December. It's a 4-month season, and you got to finish all 17 games. So definitely excited. This, like you said, Marcus, we got better at this draft in specific positions, but let's now all mesh as a team and see what he can do.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, you named Alec Pierce. You're absolutely right. That is a guy whose success purely is determined by Anthony Richardson. Because I think we talked about on your podcast as well, is that
Correct.
he'd be open, but like I said, like that's not a Minshew play. That's a Richardson play. Minshew doesn't have that cannon of an arm
Right.
that Richardson does. So that's gonna unlock Pierce. That's where we're gonna really see Pierce kind of actually rack up the stats. Because credit where it's due, Pierce is an amazing blocker at the receiver position. So he does a lot of stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But in terms of his actual numbers, he needs Richardson to really unleash that. Like you said, Pittman's the safety net. He's the underneath guy. He's the, you need me, throw it. Josh Downs is similar to T.Y. Hilton. He's in between the numbers. He's the yak guy. He's the short spots. Pierce is the top off the defense. So was Mitchell, as we drafted. Those two guys, their success is purely on Richardson's health and obviously his arm.
And I absolutely agree with that. I do. Just like Adrian said, hope he can stay healthy for 17 games. Like I said, I see a big upside, but it all falls on the health of Anthony Richardson. If we can keep him healthy, if we can, keep, not just him, just, Pittman, all our, top guys, Jonathan Taylor, if we can keep these guys healthy and, and make that late run, come, early November into December, I think we'll be sitting, pretty good and maybe possibly making the playoffs.
Right. Absolutely. So before we close off this show, like I said, if you want to give a letter grade, have at it. But more importantly, I'm going to ask, who's your boom? Who's your bust on this draft? For sake of it, Latu being the first pick, you cannot pick him as your boom. And then Jonah Lalulu as the last pick, you cannot pick him as your bust. Adrian, I'll go with you. Who's going to boom from this class and who's going to bust?
I'm going to give the boom to Bertonelli. I'm going to trust my brother on this one, and I'm going to trust on the position as well, because I feel like he has the traits to become the starter, And then on the bust, I'm going to go with Micah Abraham. I mean, it's a risk. You're a 6th-round pick. You're really not expected to it. And like we talked about a little bit before, Darius Rush was a 5th-round pick and he was released. He didn't even make the roster. So I feel like Ballard is playing with fire in that strategy. It panned out. It didn't, but we'll see if it pans out this year. But that will be my bust.
All right, yeah, I like it. Marcus, same question for you. Who's the boom in this class? Who's the bust?
I'm going to say Mitchell, Donald Mitchell. I think he's going to be a boom. He's going to be a good asset to the offense. I think he'll split roles between him and Pierce. They both deep threats. I just think that he was going to definitely thrive with having a quarterback like Anthony Richardson. And then my bust, I'm going to go with Adrian's also, Abraham, being a 5th-round pick. It was kind of a little bit taking a risk, taking a gamble with drafting him. I think, hopefully hopefully he makes the team, but I don't really have too many high expectations for him.
All right, and I like it. So my boom, I probably gave it away earlier. It's going to be Anthony Gould, the receiver. Like I said, special teams. We've seen the importance of special teams, and I think having a guy that's been his main role in college coming to the pros, and like we talked about it, Dallas Flowers, Josh Downs, you take that responsibility off of them. They don't have to focus on it. Like you said, Adrian, like they were decent at it. The numbers are, probably about league average, but you're taking a guy who can potentially be a top 5 when it comes to that specifically. So obviously as a rookie, there's going to be challenges, but again, it's a guy with experience, if you will, in the role. And as a late round pick, it's an easier defined role for him to make this roster. And I guess we're all picking on the same guy because I've got Micah Abraham as the bust as well, corner out of Marshall. Just to piggyback on what you guys said, but also bring on top, he's an undersized guy as well. So sure, obviously he fought through that. He got drafted. It means he is in a somewhat of an elite class. Getting drafted is nothing to shame at. but he's fighting an uphill battle. The corner room does need help. It's a lot of young guys in there, like you said. Kenny Moore is the veteran. After that, you've got essentially rookies and year 2 players. So he has a chance to make this roster. He has a chance to make us all look dumb with this. But like you kind of said, being a day 3 pick, it's a dart throw. It's like we'll see.
For sure. And I was going to tell you, Rondo, if you want to send him the snip of this part of the show just to motivate him through training camp, go ahead.
Hey, I just say I have no problem. Like I like, not that I'm doing it on purpose. Like I know like, it's a circumstance, but absolutely. Blast me if he blows up and becomes Richard Sherman or whatever. Sure, I'll eat the crow.
We'll buy his jersey. We'll buy his jersey.
I'll definitely buy his jersey.
100%. I will buy his jersey.
I'll buy 2 of his jerseys. How about that? I'll just buy both.
If he turns into some kind of lockdown corner or a serious starter, whatever, I'll buy his jersey. I'll give away his jersey. I don't care. But hey. Like I said, obviously he's a Colt. He's got our faith and our trust behind him. We're gonna obviously cheer for him as long as he's wearing that uniform. And hey, like I said, I hope he makes a roster. This is their livelihood. So by all means, like Micah, if you happen to watch this, prove me wrong. I'll gladly eat the crow.
Absolutely, and it's not a tactic to beat the young man down, from coming in. Hey, I look at it as motivation for him. You know what I'm saying? So, like you said, if he's watching, hey, prove us all wrong. I'll buy 2 of your jerseys if you come in and be better than what we expect.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with that, last question for all of you guys. It's kind of up the cusp, but so with all the draft picks, taking all the numbers, if they all sign their rookie deal, it leaves the Colts with about $18 million left in cap space. So we'll close it with this one. Adrian, we'll start with you. Does Ballard bring someone else in here? And if you have a name, if you have a position, what do you think?
I think I already said it. Position-wise, we need another veteran corner. I just don't have the name right now. I just don't know who's in the market, so I'll be lying if I'll tell you I know. But I just feel you need that presence. When Stephon Gilmore came and everybody called him washed, he helped us. Now, unfortunately, it was our down season, where the team gave up in November, but he was one of the highlights of the team. So I wouldn't mind if there's one available on the market to bring one of those guys, to prove themselves for that they still have some left in the tank and help these rookies out. Help these Jalen Jones, this Dallas Flowers, this new rookie class that we just drafted. Get better, get ready for next year. I think that's our weakness right now, because if we go line by line, the rest of the team, not even the offense or defense, the rest of the team, except tight end, which I'm gonna have to roll the dice and play the 4th tight end again. We have no other weakness. So this is a solid team. We'll see what it can be assembled as, but a little bit of help in the cornerback position that wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it's something we talked at pre-draft, we talked post-draft. I'm with you on it too. Like I said, I don't have a name, I don't have the list in front of me, but getting another guy in there absolutely isn't gonna hurt. So Marcus, same question for you as we close it out. Like I said, $18 million sitting in cap space, and this is obviously assuming all the rookies sign their deal. That's roughly what we're gonna have available. Does Ballard bring someone in, and again, a position you think that really could use?
Well, yesterday in the presser, he did say that, he's going to look into the market. He's going to, evaluate it, see who's out there and see what he can bring in and see if they can help us out. I'm more of the free safety spot. I think that we definitely need to get a veteran presence there. You bring Blackman back, but then who else we got other than, Blackman? You know what I'm saying? So definitely need, veteran presence over there, on that free safety spot, or even corner, like Adrian said. It doesn't really matter who's the veteran there, as long as we can get that room on the same page and get them young guys to understand, what it takes to play in this league. I'm all for it. So definitely, I think he does dive into the pocketbook and see if they can bring somebody in here.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with both of you guys' selections. I wouldn't hate all of it, so I'm just gonna go a little different though. I think you get a linebacker, some type of, just because like we talked about, you have Zaire, you have EJ, and after that, who? Like
Right.
again, get a guy off the market. Like I said, I don't know who's necessarily available, but I think you need a guy, a veteran presence again, if you will, but who's played defensive. And if anything, maybe that guy can kind of like captain the special teams, because obviously, because our original special team captains are now our starting linebackers. So I think you need a guy to kind of cement that unit. And then I'm going to cheat a little bit because me and Adrian talked about this on his podcast. I think you need to go find a guy, regardless of position, who has a Super Bowl ring, has that kind of that presence. Because you look at the roster right now, Flacco has a ring, Buckner has played in the game. Yeah. That's it. I think you need to, and even then, you want to go even deeper than that. Ryan Kelly is the only guy who has made it past the wild card round. So you really don't have any kind of postseason pedigree guys on this roster, obviously active, Reggie Wayne obviously being a coach. So I think you need a guy who has been there, done that, who can kind of take this whole roster and be like, hey, I got one of these. I know what it takes.
And that's why this is going to sound like crying over the spilled milk a little bit, but that's why it was so vital to win that game and get that playoff experience, because we're not going to come here and pretend that we were going to run the table, and get to the Super Bowl. But just having that game, even at home, it would help so much for this whole group. Like Rondo said, Ryan Kelly is the last man standing from having that 2018 season. We went to KC and almost got the win to the Pat Mahomes rookie that got us out. But other than that, this roster is still pretty new. It's a good thing to have, but when it comes down to the closing moments in late December or early January, I feel like that's also what is beating us in the butt, that we're not able to close seasons, and having that experience will definitely help. I agree 100%, Rana.
Yeah, like I said, obviously it is only April, my friend. So now we take another break until even training camps, mini camps, all those kick off, and then eventually we're gonna be back at it. Regular season is gonna be here soon enough. More than anything, Adrian, can't thank you enough for obviously joining us. As I've said it, always welcome. I've been on your show. You're always welcome on our platform. It's always a good time having you. Real quick, let all of our listeners and viewers know where they can find you.
Thank you again, Rondo. We planned this one. I've had you on my podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you. Marcus, again, nice to talk to you. I remember last year when we did it, and always a pleasure. Yes, they can find me on Take One for the Team podcast. I haven't released any new content yet. I probably won't till at least July or the start of the training camp, just because draft we just covered here. I don't see the need of having an extra episode. But again, thank you again, Rondo. If you want to follow me, Take One for the Team podcast. I usually post episodes right after the game, like literally an hour after. So it's not really much analysis, just how I felt about the game, and try to bring guests out to just tell me how they felt about it too. Not really rant or bent, but just how they felt right away. Because sometimes we go to sleep on Sunday night and we listen to some media on Monday morning. It changes our perspectives of the game. We cool down a little bit, but I just like to have that live reaction and all. But like I said, again, thank you, Rondo, and thank you for the listeners from this great show.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, you can find, again, that's anywhere and ever you can listen to a podcast. So, iTunes, Buzzsprout, Spotify. Like I said, give him a follow, give him a listen. He does great stuff over there. Like you said, it's raw, off the cup, right after the game. So you get that immediate reaction, that immediate emotion. But obviously, that's going to do it for this one. On behalf of myself, Marcus, our guest, Adrian, Gulick, who cannot be here, Sideline Sports, the big umbrella who does it all for us. A lot of them had their physical presence at the draft. You can catch this show. Obviously, make sure you're following us, obviously, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, our name, Sideline Sports. Either one, you can find us. You can find a lot of other great content creators under the Sideline Sports umbrella. But as always, we will catch you guys on the next one. As for now, it's 156, and we are out.